Hello guys, today we're going to try and install this 12-speed Tamiya gearbox into this Liebherr 900 model. One important thing we need to figure out today is what speed the gearbox needs to be set at, because that will determine the height from the base of the model that we need to mount the motor. So with any luck, a gear ratio on this lower setting will work the best, because that will pretty much be flush with the base of the model here. So I think the first thing to do anyway is to get rid of the model itself, to get rid of the upper half of the model, because that isn't really of any use to us today. For this model I'm going to mount the drive motor on the front half here and the steering on the back. There's a bit more room for the steering here, because there's no room for the wheels to turn with the blade at the front. So we need to remove the blade out of the way for now. That'll be in a different video. We can sort out the blade, so I can kind of retrofit the model, I suppose, with the blade. So we'll remove that for now. So if the motor is going to be mounted around about this position, you can see that the body here, there's nothing to screw it to, so we need to add some material there, and same on the other side. So that's a little issue that needs to be done. But first problem, we need to mount the wheels to this motor some way. Now the original axle here, I think that's about maybe 1.5 mil, something like that, maybe 2 mil. So to get onto the 3 mil, to mount it to the 3 mil hex shaft, I'm going to first try and drill this out to 2.5 mil and see if it will press fit onto the hex shaft. If we can press fit it on by just drilling it out to 2.5 mil, that will save us a huge amount of work trying to get these wheels mounted to the hex shaft. Well, it's not press fitting onto it too handy, but I have another idea. I'm thinking maybe if I heat up a hex shaft, I'll be able to push the bar into the wheel here and basically mould the hex shape into it. Well, I got something that kind of works here. On this part of the rim, I've drilled this down only a small way to 3 millimeters, so the shaft, the axle, will be able to come into this a little bit. Then on this side, on this part of it, so the part that mates to here, so the inside of the wheel hub, so in here I've drilled this 3 millimeters down, say down to around about here is 3 millimeters. Okay, so from the bar back to here, I've drilled that to about 3 millimeters. This piece that goes up to the motor, I drilled that to 2.5 millimeters. Then I got a piece of hex shaft. This is an offcut from one of my other models, and I heated that up a little bit and pushed it into the 2.5 millimeter hole here. So it's only that little depth that you need to melt. So that has made the hex imprint on the plastic here. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but basically this first maybe centimeter of the wheel hub here is hex, and the rest of it is 3 millimeters. So that means if I put my wheels back together here, I can now push this up on the hex shaft. That's up all the way, and if I give it a little power, you can see that I didn't get it perfect. There's a little bit of wobble in the wheel, so I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, but it's not perfectly aligned. The wheel is kind of moving in and out a little bit, but it's not too bad. It should do. It should be good enough. I don't think probably won't notice it after I have it installed on the model. So I'll do the same for this other wheel now. So drill a little bit to 3 millimeters. Then drill this side to 3mm a little bit too. Okay, that should do. Now this longer side to 2.5. Okay, that should be 2.5mm hole there now for part of it. So the next bit is the tricky bit. Try and heat this up. So I'm just going to heat this little thing up here. So that should be alright now. Pull that out. Okay, now that the hex piece is in here, hopefully we'll be able to get this on the motor shaft, and that was easy, maybe too easy. So let's see if the wheel is straight or if it's wobbling like the other one. That one's pretty straight. That seems to have worked okay. I don't know how long it will last, but it's not too bad for a first attempt anyway. We'll see how we get on. I can take off these side pieces because we need to know how fast this gear, or how fast these wheels are really turning, so that we can gauge whether it's a good speed for the model or not. So just to test the speed of the gearbox, at the minute we're set on the lowest speed, I think. So it should be the lowest, highest torque. So let's see if this will be an acceptable speed for the model. I would say that is pretty ideal. You don't want it to be as fast as, say, the Fendt or anything. I mean, it's just an excavator, so it should be fairly slow. And I think the speed that we have here, yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, because you can always slow it down a little bit in the code. So we're not going too slow as it is. We should have a fair amount of torque for pushing, because we do have the blade on the front, so we want to be able to push something. Now, don't expect this to push a ton of sand or anything, because you know, this is a gearbox that's only got nylon gears, so they're not going to last all that long. But still, you want to be able to at least make an effort to push a small amount of sand or something like that. So I think that speed is pretty good. Now the next thing is to try and figure out how to mount that to the model. So I'm happy enough with the speed of the motor, so the next thing to do is to try and mount it to the model. Now, what I'm going to have to do is measure where exactly the axle needs to sit in relation to this piece of the model and this piece of the model, and then find that location here. Because if I do this right, I can cut a step into this part of the model here. So if I cut a step here, and same on this other side, then the model won't be able to move forward or backwards, because it will be caught within these bits of plastic. So that will be forward and backwards sorted out, and that might mean that I'll be able to drill a hole maybe here on the model and just put one bolt through here to hold the model so that it can't slide from left to right. So if I do that, I'd very easily be able to mount the motor without too much effort. So the axle needs to be centered roughly 16mm from here, and around about 12mm from the front there. Next thing, check depth of our motor here. So to the center of the axle looks to be 11.5mm, we'll say. So if we've 11.5mm here, then we need 3.5mm we need to cut this down to 3.5mm to let the motor into that depth. So I can mark that on the frame here and cut away part of the model. The other dimension then, so see that's 5mm, so that would mean we need to cut this one 7mm in. So we need a square cut out. We go down 7mm here and go down to 3.5 here. So we should get cut a slot out of this that would be the right dimensions for the model, or for the motor. And the motor itself then is 31mm long. So just to recap, from the centre of the axle here to here is 16. From the centre of the axle here to the bottom here is 11.5. So we need a 4.5mm ridge along this, or along here, so that will keep our motor the right depth down. Now from here to here is 7mm, and from here to here 12mm, so we need to cut 5mm in here. Then our motor should be perfectly aligned where this axle used to be. You can see here that I've cut out this slot to let the motor in. I've also drilled a 3mm hole here, and I drilled a 2.5mm hole here, and I'm using this self-tapping screw to fix the motor in place. So the motor fits into the slot there, so it can't move forward and back, and I just put the one screw here simply because it was easy to get this screw in, whereas getting a screw in the back would be hard to do and line up the motor. So I'm going to try one screw for start. I'm going to see how it goes with just the one screw for now, and if I need to later on I'll come up with another way to fix it in place. But for now it seems to be pretty good. So we'll put that motor on. So wheels. And that's it. There we go, that's working fine. The whole chassis is bending down at the front here, so obviously I put the axle in the wrong place. I'll take that out and fix that. Okay, I have the axle in the right place now, so we'll do a little speed check here. So that seems reasonable speed for an excavator. So next little thing we need to look at is the blade here. It used to fit on the axle here, but now obviously this motor is a little bit wider than the old axle. So first thing I think I'll do is switch these two arms. That'll give us a little bit more space there. So now we can fit up the side of the motor. So the dozer blade is will just about fit over the motor here. So what I think I'll do is drill out these holes to 3mm so that they'll slide onto the axle, and that will just widen our wheelbase just a small little bit. So just about 3mm I'd say, widen the wheels. When it comes to the steering on this side, we'll see if we need to widen the wheels out a bit. You probably wouldn't even notice that this little difference between the front and rear wheels. It wouldn't really make any difference to the model, I don't think. But yeah, I think the simplest thing is to just drill these out to 3mm and put them on the axle. Okay, so we can try the dozer blade out now. I've milled the arms out to 3mm, so they fit over the axle now. They're a little bit tight, but that's not a big problem. They'll wear into it a little bit as time goes on. I need to glue the arms onto the blade at some point, but for now it'll do as it is. Don't need to worry about it too much. So pop back on our wheels. I haven't made too much of a difference to our wheelbase, and our blade is kind of restricted by the old fixing points here, so we probably need to get rid of them so that our blade can go up and down. But I think once we have that done, it should be fairly simple. So we can see our blade arms are hitting the gearbox just here and here, so I need to take a little bit off the arms just so that I can push them in that little bit more to get them nice and snug up against the motor here, and let the wheels in that little bit further. I cut this little section out of the arm here, so now it fits around this part of the gearbox. So clears this little part of the gearbox here now. So the next thing I need to do is try and sort out the top half of it here. So I'm not sure if I can use these fake cylinders here to attach to a servo yet. But one thing's for sure, I need to get rid of these mounting points here, because I don't need them anymore and they are getting in my way here. So with these fixing points gone, I can put the model down here, and I can see that if I use these lifting arms as the pivoting points, I'm able to get quite a reasonable height from the blade here. So that's all really that I'm looking for, just enough movement to get that bit of height. So that means, because I have the pivot point up here, that I might be able to mount the servo here, for example, and just connect a bar through to this arm here, which would be pretty ideal to be able to mount the servo back here somewhere. If you see here, our drive motor is fairly low down, but also the height that our blade can raise to is lower than the drive motor. So I think it would be pretty simple to just mount the servo this direction. It'll be the same height below the model as the drive motor here, so we shouldn't have any more ground clearance issues. But like I said, the blade is lower than the drive motor anyway, so if we hit something with if we would have hit something with the drive motor, we would have hit it with the blade. Mounting the servo vertically will be able to save a little bit of space down here, because we're going to need room for the slewing mechanism and the steering servo. Maybe I could mount the dozer servo vertically here and the steering servo vertically on this side, and in that way we'd be able to save a little bit of space. So the first thing I really need to do is just to test out if this servo is fit to move the servo blade. Okay, so I just have a paper clip used as the little connecting rod here. They're generally the handiest little piece of hard wire that you can get your hands on. So I just have it hooked up between the servo and one of these fake hydraulic cylinders. So I'll test it out now. I have the servo tester connected to it. So just hold the servo in place here, and we should be able to check if we have enough power. It shouldn't take very much to move the full range. As you can see there, the servo is barely moving, but our blade is getting the full range of motion. So that looks like it'll probably work pretty well. So I think that's going to work okay. I'll just have to drill a hole through the top of this and put the servo arm up through it. I might face the servo arm out this direction just to keep it away from, or just to leave plenty of space in the middle here for the slew ring or whatever I need to install in there, because there'll probably be quite a bit of stuff happening in there. I fixed the motor or the servo in place here, fixed it to the side, so this just is hidden in behind that there, so that's like that. And the little bar going to the fake hydraulic cylinder here, hooked up to the servo tester here, so you can see it's able to lift the wheels off the ground. That's pretty good, I think. So it's able to lift the wheels off the ground, which is pretty good. Probably won't be able to do that when the rest of the model is there, but that seems to be working okay for moving up and down the lifting arms. It's pretty simple, and if needs be we can always modify it later, because when we get round to doing the slew ring and all that's involved in the middle here, we might find that we have problems with this design, so we might have to modify that later. Basically pretty much nothing is guaranteed to be how it's going to be when we finish the model. There'll be little bits of work to be done on everything. That's all I'll have time for this weekend, but in the next video I'll probably cut the rear axle off the JCB and try and mount the drive motor to that model. So that'll mean I'll have that steering axle ready so that I can try and mount it to this model then in a follow-up video. So if you're interested in either of those, make sure and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can head to the forum and ask them there, or ask them below the videos here, that's fine too. So that's all for this video, so thanks very much for watching.